guys, welcome to number 5. I think we're on our Rome unit. Okay, so where we left off in our last video, we were saying how after the Punic Wars, the area of Rome is really declining because the gap between the rich and the poor is becoming very prevalent. We said the government, instead of like fixing some of these problems by giving land back to the people, they're fixing it with policies that I just compared to like a little band-aid. So a short-term fix, not a long-term fix. Okay, so they entered into like bread and circuses trying to make the people happy. We also mentioned that the military at this time is becoming very strong. So these military generals are now becoming the leaders of Rome, okay, and kind of abusing their powers. So we said Marius was really good, okay, and he gave jobs to the people by creating a professional army, but people like Sulla were quite cruel and then took all that power for himself. Okay, so we said at the end of Sulla's leadership, other military generals are going to say, well, if Sulla can go in and eliminate the leader and make himself leader, well, I guess we can do the same thing. So what's going to happen, okay, is that people are going to start doing the same thing and a lot of conflict is going to break out. So as time goes on, military leaders are going to eventually say, well, if we continue down this path, we're going to lose everything, okay? Our whole empire will end up like Greece, okay? Remember, Greece fought at the end. They kept fighting over who should have power, and eventually Rome came in and took them over, okay? So Rome's smart enough to realize that this is not the best path to be on. So in 60 BC, 3 men decided, okay, that they would join together. So instead of having one general rule everybody, 3 generals would get together and they're going to rule Rome. Okay, they are Crassus, Pompey, and Julius Caesar. All of these men, okay, were a part of the military, but they put their selfish needs aside and then joined together, forming something that we call the first triumvirate. Okay, a triumvirate is simply a group of 3 people who share equal power. Okay, so instead of having 2 councils or a president, they have a triumvirate. Okay, with this triumvirate, okay, these 3 guys, we're looking at them here, okay, Crassus, Julius Caesar, and Pompey, are going to split up the Roman Republic into 3 equal areas. So this should all sound familiar. Greece did the same thing. Okay, so if we look at the areas that they ruled, Pompey is going to rule the area near Spain. Caesar has the area of Gaul, which was kind of by France. Then he goes up towards Great Britain and takes over more land. Okay. And Crassus rules the other area of France in an area called Belgium. Okay, now out of these 3 guys, Caesar is the one guy that actually treats the people really kindly. Okay, so he sets out to make sure that the people of his region, okay, are set. He gave jobs out, he gave land out, so he's really nice to his people, where Pompey and Crassus were more of like that dictator type, where they had all the control, the wealth, and the power. Okay, the Roman senators, who are still that patrician class, were kind of worried about Caesar because they worried that he was too popular. Okay, and if all the people like Caesar, people would begin to leave the other areas, or they might support Caesar in a takeover of the entire government. Okay, so this is going to become a problem. Now this all erupts because one of the triumvirate members, okay, dies. Well, if one triumvirate member dies, you no longer have 3 in power, you only have 2. So now what we have is, well, who's going to take over? Okay, we can't have just 2 leaders. Okay, so we either have Pompey or we have Julius Caesar, and the senators are going to pick the guy that they want. They figured that they would be able to control Pompey, and Pompey would just do whatever the senators wanted. Okay, they were more concerned about Caesar because Caesar really liked those poor people, and the senators thought that they would lose everything if Caesar became the leader. Okay, so the Senate is going to give their support to Pompey, and they're going to talk to Caesar, and they're going to tell Caesar that he has to give up his army and he has to return to Rome to step down. Okay, Caesar, being smart enough to realize the time frame, believes that if he goes back to Rome, that the senators would kill him like they did with Tiberius and Gaius Gracchus, or they would imprison him. Either way, he figured that his life would end. So instead of doing what the senators wanted, he told his army that they were going to fight back. Okay, so he gathered all his troops that were still in support of him. They crossed a river called the Rubicon River and they entered into Italy. So on this map, we could see where the Rubicon River is. Okay, and if we look at where Rome is, it's kind of like by the T on Italy, down that Tiber River. Okay, as they cross into Rome, he disobeys, he marches into Rome, and civil war breaks out. Okay, at the end of this civil war, he was able to capture Rome, drive Pompey out, and now he's going to become the sole leader of the Roman Republic. So even though we're talking a lot about dictatorships and control of power, at this time we consider Rome still a republic because they still have the Senate, they still have the judicial branch, and so forth. So as Caesar takes over, he's going to declare himself a dictator for life. Again, not very republic-like, but we're still calling it republic because of those other branches. Okay, he creates a Senate of all people that support him. Okay, so again, the Senate is now not an elected position, and he's choosing who should be in there. Okay, but he is popular amongst the poor because of the things he did for them. So he created new jobs. He organized the land, kind of like the Gracchus brothers wanted, so all people could have land. He told landowners that they could not have prisoners of war. They had to hire people. Okay, again, providing these jobs and more money flowing in this economy. Caesar is also known separately from the reforms that he made. He also made something that we still use today called the Julian calendar. So he's going to try to organize time a little bit better in that year. So he creates a calendar that has 365 days, 12 months, and a leap year. Sounds a lot like ours. Okay, the Julian calendar was changed slightly because of the Christian religion, and now we use something called the Gregorian calendar. Okay, but they're all pretty similar. Okay, so the people, the poor people, really like Caesar. The problem is the rich people really don't like Caesar because Caesar is making too much change too quickly for them. And they feel that they're losing ground, they're losing money, they're losing land. Okay, so now we have to look at Caesar and say, what's going to happen to him? Okay, so we have the poor people who live in the cities that really like him, but those in the government who are still rich didn't. Okay, so these senators, okay, who didn't like Caesar, who believed that he was just going to take everything away from him, came up with this idea to kill him. Okay, so two of Caesar's enemies, Brutus and Cassius, okay, had a plot to kill him. So what they're going to do, they're going to tell Caesar that there's going to be a special meeting held in the Senate. Okay, Caesar's the leader, okay, so he knows that he has to attend this meeting. As Caesar enters the Senate building, okay, they surround him in a circle and they stab him to death. Okay, remember the ruling class are the rich. Okay, they control the government. They're in the judicial branch. So none of these people were killed. Okay, they weren't arrested at all. This story was also written by Shakespeare, and he wrote a play called Julius Caesar, which is actually really common still in today's world. And in the play, they always say the Ides of March, okay, which was March 15th. Okay, and Shakespeare said the Ides of March. In the play, they say, Caesar, beware of the Ides of March. Beware of the middle of March. Okay, because that's the time when they plotted to kill him and he dies. Now, once Caesar dies, okay, what's going to happen is conflict's going to break out because they have to try to figure out, who are the next leaders going to be. So again, we have this civil war idea. Okay, so very quickly, okay, very similar to the first time, three generals are going to join together and they're going to form something called the Second Triumvirate. Okay, so these three generals are a man named Octavian, who is related to Julius Caesar, Mark Antony, and Marcus Lepidus. So these three guys are going to come together, form the Second Triumvirate. They set it up just like the first one. So they're going to divide up the land equally between the three of them with this concept that all three are going to rule happily together and equally share land. We can probably predict how this is going to turn out. Okay, so Octavian is going to control the area of Italy and all of Western Europe. Antony is going to control Greece, and Lepidus is going to control the northern part of Africa. Okay, the Second Triumvirate is going to fall apart very similar to the first. One of those three guys is going to die, and that guy is going to be Lepidus. Okay, when Lepidus dies, now we have to figure out, which of the two leaders are going to become, okay, the new leader of the Roman Republic. Okay, so we have Antony and we have Octavian. Okay, Antony at this time falls in love. Okay, so we don't really talk about love a lot in social studies, right? But he falls in love, and the person he falls in love with is the lady in the top right-hand corner, whose name is Cleopatra. So hopefully you know a little bit about Cleopatra. She is the queen of Egypt. So Antony falls in love with the queen of Egypt. Okay, so after Lepidus dies, Antony and Cleopatra, who are now in love, are going to form an alliance. Okay, so now we have Greece, okay, that area that Antony controls, and Egypt, which is a strong power, forming an alliance. Okay, well, if they form an alliance, typically alliances lead to conflict. Okay, so Octavian's going to look at this alliance and say, well, Rome is at, threat. Okay, because with this alliance, Antony and Cleopatra could come with Antony's forces and the Egyptian forces and come in and sweep everybody, and then all of Rome would decline. Okay, so the senators are going to tell Octavian that they have his support if he goes in and takes over Antony. So Octavian is going to declare war, and they're both going to bring their navies, and they're going to fight right off the coast of Greece. Octavian's navy is going to be stronger than Antony's, and they're going to be able to go into Egypt and then take over. Once they take over Egypt, okay, Antony and Cleopatra realize that if they're captured, they're going to probably suffer a pretty terrible death. So both of them commit suicide in order to prevent capture. With their death, Octavian is going to become the supreme leader of Rome. Okay, so now we have one left. So now we have Octavian. Okay, so when Octavian takes over, he knows that the people, okay, want a republic again. The people are looking to have a government like Caesar was creating, okay, for the people, by the people. Okay, so he knows that the people want this, so when he goes out in public, he's going to talk all about a republic and how great it was. Privately, though, Octavian doesn't want a republic. He believes that Rome's problems are so deep, okay, that a republic for the people, by the people, isn't going to fix any of the problems. So once he gains the people's support by speaking publicly about how great the republic is, okay, after he has all the people supporting him, he's going to go on and he's going to make himself the consul, the tribune, and the commander-in-chief for life, thus ending the Roman Republic and getting rid of all three branches of government. At this time, Octavian is going to take a title known as Augustus. Augustus means the majestic one. So instead of being called Octavian, he's going to call himself Caesar Augustus. Caesar to help those people realize that he's going to be out for the people, and Augustus meaning that he's the emperor. Okay, so the Roman Republic is now over, and it is replaced now with the Roman Empire, Octavian being the emperor. Now, if we look at Augustus, how he took power was a little shady, right? And how he made himself the sole leader is a little shady. But Augustus ruled, okay, during this time period, and his main concern was the happiness of his people. Emperors who have full control a lot of time are really selfish, cruel, and so on. Augustus was not. He was a good emperor. Okay, he set out for his whole leadership to make Rome better. And he did. So he's going to reform things. He's going to make the people happy. That was his sole purpose in his life. Okay, so since he is out for the people, they're going to enter an area called Pax Romana, which means Roman peace. Okay, this is going to be the time of Rome's height. Okay, nice large size, everything's going well. We can compare this to the golden age of Greece. Okay, his reforms are going to be very similar. They're all for the people to make it better. Okay, he creates that professional army where people are paid. He did create the Praetorian Guard to protect himself, so he didn't die like Caesar did, because he knows that could be a problem. He made Rome's borders all physical features, so the Sahara Desert, the Rhine River, the Atlantic Ocean, so it was really hard to come in and attack Rome because it was much easier to protect. Okay, he put troops at all his borders to protect this large empire he had because he didn't want to fall like Greece did. So again, he is out to help the people. Okay, so if we look at the Roman Empire at this time, everything in gray is Rome. Okay, so this is a pretty big area, so it's his job to protect all areas and keep all of those people happy. And he knows that he has to do it by providing the poor with the necessities that he needs. And we'll stop there.